or how much money I was making, that it was about, I'm going to tell the truth. That's what has value to me. And the fact that that idea is so rare is why we're in all this trouble. That is my most prized possession, is that I am uncompromising with the truth. And I have courage, and I'm not a coward, because I understand you can't give in to evil. That's valuable. That's not chapters I look back at and think, oh man, I'd be a lot bigger. You know, the system needs to pat me on the head and to make me think that I somehow have achieved something because it's there. You know, now giving me entree. No, I don't want that. But we called, I'll be honest though, we did not call the county thing 100% right. It was a lot worse than what I said. We were dead on that it was a new boogeyman launch operation. Now the UN admits it, it's all public. 9 countries they want to invade in Africa with boogeymen in each one. Most of them haven't been seen in years. Perfect boogeymen who are probably dead so they can just blast everything. The UN's slaughtering people all over Uganda and Congo right now. Huge oil, everything found there. And here it is, Kony 2012 video screening met with anger in northern Uganda and all over the country. They've got minions of this group there trying to show them the film, and people are just completely blowing up because they know it is just abject, total bull and a pretext to invade Africa. Nothing to do with Joseph Kony. It's just there's a bad guy, get him. 5 minutes of hate, 1984. Here it is.
We're on the...
All right, former Congressman Bob Barr, he's also been the Libertarian presidential nominee a few years back, is our guest, and I have wanted to get him on the show so we can get some updates on what his Liberty Guard group is doing with its FOIA request lawsuits with the TSA. You know, now South Park last night had their episode. I actually watched it this morning. I don't normally watch it, but not too much into the potty humor. But they made a good point here. They were calling it well, I'll get into it later. The point is, across cultural lines, everybody is sick of the TSA. It is the big issue, like nothing I've ever seen, that has unified Americans along political lines, religious lines, racial, regional. Everyone I know, and I've seen the polls, it's 90+%, cannot stand what the TSA is doing. There's some conformist out there who on the news will say, oh, I don't like it, but it's needed. No, it's not. I cannot fly. I cannot subject my children to what top psychologists have said is pedophilia training, to have strangers grabbing and groping your children, including their genitals. They got caught groping old women, strip searching them. They lied about that, and then got caught. They lied about the radiation strength of the scanners. And Bob Barr has been all over this. Of course, Bob Barr also is involved in a lot of other areas trying to defend liberties. And I want to discuss some of those with him as well. But please, sir, give us the latest, and thank you for joining us, on what's happening in your investigation and sparring with the TSA.
Thanks very much, Alex. It's great to be back with you and your many, many listeners once again. By the way, just as a sidelight on TSA, about a week ago, I was traveling and at a certain airport, and I showed the TSA person my congressional ID. As a former member of Congress, I have an official government ID that identifies me as a former member of Congress. It has an official government seal. It says right on the face of it that it's U.S. government identification, has my name, and so forth. And the guard looked at it, and he said, I can't accept this. Do you have a driver's license? And I said, yes, but that's an official government ID. It certainly is good for purposes of getting on an airplane. Well, wait over here. So he puts me aside and calls over a supervisor. And the supervisor, a gentleman probably about 50 years old, he looks at it, studies it under one of their little flashlight things that they think are so impressive, shines a light on it, and says, I'm going to have to look this up. And I said, well, fine. It's fine with me. And then the other guy pipes up and says, this guy refused to show me a driver's license. I said, I didn't refuse anything. I just indicated to you that this was an official government ID. So the other guy, then literally takes about 5 minutes to thumb through a couple of little books that they have with various forms of identification. He says, it's not in here. I've never seen it before. And I said, well, it doesn't matter whether you've seen it before. It's an official government ID, and but it's not in my book. I said, well, that's fine. It's still an official government ID. I mean, this is sort of typical, Alex, of the problems that are magnified tens of thousands of times daily across the country. Just a minor problem, but the more serious problems are the ones that you just mentioned, and that our organization Liberty Guard is fighting. We began this battle with TSA back in November of 2010. You recall, of course, that's when they started really hassling people, and we began and started issuing cards to people, we being Liberty Guard, the Opt-Out Alliance, informing people, giving them a little card if they wrote in or emailed in to libertyguard.org, and we sent them a card, an Opt-Out Alliance card that explained their rights. If they wanted that they have a right to opt out of one of these naked body scanners, they have a right to have a private frisk done and so forth. And I don't agree with any of that, but the point is that if you don't want to go through one of these naked body scanners, you do have the right to opt out, and then you have certain rights thereunder. Well, and almost immediately after there was this big flap, a number of folks were calling for an opt-out day. All of a sudden, right before Thanksgiving of 2010, the TSA backed away and didn't use the machines. Well, we thought this was mighty interesting that they make this big push. They say these machines are absolutely essential and air travel safety will be severely compromised if not, and so forth. And then all of a sudden, they don't do it when they're faced with a public backlash. Well, of course, we couldn't get any information out of them. We filed a Freedom of Information Act requests, and they denied them, said, oh, this isn't covered, we can't give this to you, it's sensitive information, and so forth. Anyway, we had this running paperwork battle with them for quite some time, and finally we decided at Liberty Guard the only way to really get to the bottom of this is to file suit. So we have filed suit in U.S. court in Virginia against TSA, simply seeking access to the information that led them to both first say that these machines are essential, and then all of a sudden they back away from it, and we want to see the documents. And that's the status of our lawsuit right now, Liberty Guard versus the TSA.
Now, I want to give out websites and other contacts for folks that want to get the card, because people say, well, what's the point of it? It creates a form of unity. It points out that we know we have our rights. It starts to create a lobby for liberty, and that's what we have to do is get together. And it also lets them know as they see these cards more and more that there's a solidarity. Obviously, Congressman, you know that, but I'm just pointing it out for some new listeners that are saying, what's the point of this? Do you agree with me that this is probably the biggest unifying issue that we've seen in a decade?
It is, I think, Alex, because it affects so many people, and the measures that the TSA are taking are so intrusive and so arbitrary that they really touch the heart and soul of what it means to be an American, to not have to subject yourself to the humiliation, the absolute humiliation of having the government be able to take a nude photograph of you in public and to subject you at their arbitrary whim to an extremely invasive pat-down. I mean, this is what I learned many years ago in law school, were such actions by the government that they could only use on somebody on whom they had clear suspicion of criminal activity, and now they're subjecting average law-abiding American citizens and law-abiding foreign visitors to this country. This form of humiliation.
Sure. I mean, if you saw somebody run out of a liquor store after a robbery, you catch them down the street, they look like they shove a gun down their pants. Well, for your safety as a police officer, you tackle them, you get the gun. But you don't just march little kids up and everybody's guilty until proven innocent. In fact, you're a lawyer. You've been in the CIA. You've been in international delegations. You know, you've sat on key committees in Congress. So you're a leading expert on these issues. So let me ask you this. Just as a layman, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not all these things. But just as a person who studied the common law, Bill of Rights, Constitution, read what the Founding Fathers wrote, read a few court cases, had a lot of lawyers on, constitutional lawyers. I mean, if the FBI can't randomly go to a park and start rubbing the outside of your pants or, God forbid, going inside as they're now doing, the state police can't do it. So how do the feds create a group that aren't even sworn bonded officers? There's no discussion of jurisdiction. And now I've confirmed they're on highways searching cars. They're in Dallas. They now have Army personnel with TSA. You can just search TSA inspector, and you'll see photos online of National Guard out at a Bayfest in Alabama, and there's National Guard with guys that say TSA inspector searching little kids' bags, just randomly, not even going into a sports stadium, but entering downtown. I mean, to me, it's nothing but acclamation. But how do they do this? I mean, where's the 10th Amendment? Where's the 4th? Where is the due process? I mean, Texas, as you know, tried to pass a law, and I want you to speak to this. Last year, unanimously passed the House. The feds threatened a blockade of the airways, so the Senate backs off. But how do they do this? How are they engaging in this type of activity?
That is the fundamental question, Alex. You pose it over and over again, and the answer to it is they can do this because we, the American people, let them do it. There is no reasonable basis at all in the Constitution of the United States of America, including the Bill of Rights, of course, for the government to subject a person who simply seeks to travel interstate, pays their money to the airline, and has a contract with that airline. There's no basis at all for the government to step in and prohibit that person from traveling interstate pursuant to their contract with the airline simply because the government, without any reasonable suspicion whatsoever, demands that the person subject themselves to an invasive, virtually body cavity search. It hasn't gotten quite to that point, but that's the direction they're going in. And when you ask, as I've done sometimes, ask the TSA person, what is the reasonable basis? What do you suspect? What crime do you suspect me of? They have no idea what you're even asking them. But until the American people stand up, both individually and collectively and through our representatives at the state level and at the federal level, they're going to continue to get away with this.
Folks can go to libertyguard.org and find out more and organize and get involved in your community. You guys are building a powerful grassroots organization around the Fourth Amendment, around states' rights, around due process, innocent until proven guilty. Just an amazing website with so much information. If people are angry and want to fight back for their liberty, not just for now but for the future, get involved at libertyguard.org. And that's my next question. What is the government thinking? Because, I didn't like